Common saying, ignorance is bliss, you know. And I believe when you're a kid, ignorance is bliss. Because when you're a kid, and naturally when you are a kid, you don't really need to, you're not supposed to have all of this mental baggage yet via responsibility. You're still a young age, you're a very impressionable age, but you're at an age where, for the most part, you know, your parents are doing all the work for you. You don't need to worry about bills, all that good stuff. You know, all this stuff, tax, you name it. You know, in the real world, you're still being sheltered as you should by your parents. And ignorance is bliss after a certain age. Because after that, I'm going to say about teenage years, you really start to realize and see the world for what it is. Hence why it starts to become a lot easier to relate to adults. And on the contrary, you can also, well, it links to you also being able, and you'll finally get to the point where you're able to actually have conversations with your mum that you were never able to have 5-10 years ago. I remember I talked to my mum about marriage as a kid, completely shut it off. I don't know why, she was unhappy. I speak to her about it now, totally normal. So after a certain age, ignorance starts to become blood. You can draw blood, because it leads you to doing the wrong decisions. And unfortunately, the more knowledge you seek, the more pain that will be on you as well, mentally. You will have to endure, and this is human nature's evolution. So we can cry about it as much as we want. Nothing is going to change. It's always been like this, so we just have to, take it on the chin head on and navigate forward. Damn, she fit. Yeah. That will always change. Never change, I mean. That will never change. It will always be like that. After a certain age, and it will really start to slap most people in the face when they turn 18 years old. When they're no longer in the school system. When they're pretty much by themselves. They have to get a job now. They need to, become a contributor to society. That's when it will really start to hit you. And ignorance will no longer be bliss. It will be brutal. Still having a lack of understanding of how the world works. Still thinking that this world is a mere fairy tale and everything's going to go according to plan. Life has a massive way of saying hi, bitch. It loves doing that. Loves doing that. That's life, man. It can be brutal, daunting, painful at times. And so we need to be prepared via gaining knowledge in many areas of life, so we don't fall for mistakes. Bro, what is with these flies? I know I don't stink because I wash regularly, but I don't know if it's because I'm near nature, flowers or some sort, but it's getting really annoying. I'm not gonna lie to you. These flies are fucking everywhere. Let me trust you, because I know for a fact I don't stink because I wash quite often. Let's go here. I think we'll be fine here. But you can't skip these guys. Spring is oh my days. But yeah, you can't really escape a thing. That's part of it. And after a certain point, being ignorant, it's the reason why you have causes such as, a lack of financial means to propel yourself forward, or being in debt, getting the wrong woman pregnant. All of these factors. Ignorance is bliss only applies when you're still a kid. When you're an adult, it really starts to, this really starts to slap you in the face. Now, initially, it does start when you're a teenager, because that's when all the thoughts start coming in. Puberty alone has you asking a lot of questions about just how life works and the sexual thoughts that will come. I mean, those sexual thoughts started to arrive to me at 14 years old. I really started kicking. I always had this horny energy since I was like 6 years old, but it really started kicking in. Bro, I'm moving here. I'm sorry. Bro, there's too much flipping, too much flies. I can't do this. I got a very sensitive nose. Yeah, fuck no. We're not doing that. I got a very sensitive nose. So I'm just gonna walk around a bit while still speaking my truth. But yeah, After a certain age, you can't be ignorant for too long. When you're ignorant as a kid, it's innocent, you know, it's an attractive trait in a kid. Preferably, someone I just saw a dead bumblebee. Preferably, you know, we would all prefer an innocent kid who is an ignorant kid because it's a sign of innocence. You know, that's admirable, but after a certain age, that has to stop. The people who are still ignorant to life and how life works, well, you see them in the streets every day. It's the people who have little care of their health and physical well-being, and they destroy themselves over, and they hate themselves inside, and they know that. So they like to shame people who are on the path of winning. I'm not sitting there sweating. They like to shame people on the path of winning because your shine bothers them. It intimidates them. They hate it with all their guts. They can't stand you, man. You're just too much for them. You're shining too bright, and you show the standard, and you working on yourself reflects their lack of effort that they do have in themselves, but lack the discipline to push forward with that. You show that properly. That's why it pisses them off, because you break their limiting belief systems that they've, you know, still had and, you know, been adopted with and refuse to make a change. They know what to do, they just don't have the discipline to do. And so your anger frustrates them and they don't want to keep moving forward. And they stay stagnant. And we all have it as people to naturally want to evolve. It's life. It's life, man. We're meant to. It's a given. But they choose not to. And they see people like you who are no longer ignorant. They know the standard. I'm sure in their life they've seen at least one ripped, jacked guy. Maybe easy enough to be jacked, just a fit person in general. So they know the standard. They know what's out there. They know what it takes. It's very simple. But it's for the long term that's hard to do. And that annoys most people. And so they're unable to do so. These flies are pissing me off. I can't tell if it's me or if it... I know it's not me because I smell good. And these flies are everywhere. It's getting in the way of these videos. Damn. But yeah. It's... Oh my goodness. You know, we gotta evolve. Ignorance, after some point, it just becomes a burden. You need to learn financial literacy. You need to learn female psychology. You need to learn how to deal with an audience. You need to learn how to take public transport of all sorts, land, all types of land, sea and air. You need to know how to navigate that. You need to learn how to budget. You need to learn good food, healthy food. You need to learn how to get in shape. You need to learn how to make friends. You need to learn how to be good with your family. You need to learn how to inspire people. You need to learn how to raise your kids well. It's a beautiful sunset. Don't you think so too? Always brightens my mood, man. You know? After a certain point, ignorance isn't bliss. And I believe we all have a philosophical side in us. Now, I'm not telling you to be a philosopher. No. Pursue what, you know, deems to your interest. But at some point, we're all going to start to question life. It's just nature. And if you don't, to which I believe 100% of the population don't, well, majority, I wouldn't say 100, it's a bit too bold. But naturally, everyone's going to start asking those questions at some point. Well, what's life about? Why am I here? You know? And that's normal, there's nothing wrong with that, it doesn't make you a widow. It's just you becoming ignorant. I don't even know if that's a word, but you're just not becoming ignorant anymore. You're becoming intelligent. That's fine. It's normal. You're human. You're meant to grow. I mean, it's weird if you don't grow. That's what's really weird. You know? You're supposed to grow, brother. You're supposed to get to that next level. And so, after a certain point, you can't be ignorant for too long. I mean, that's why you're watching these videos. You think this video came to your feed by accident? No, it's here for a reason. It's trying to tell you something. The YouTube algorithm, you know, it's not by accident. The things it sends is probably a reflection of your personality or something that you need to hear in order to change. And, you know, it being sent on, you know, your feed is just more of a sign of that. Evidence, if you will. And this is why I appeared in your feed. This video appeared in your feed. It's not by accident. It was all planned, all designed, all above. Let that sink in. Keep that.